The McCoy has sort of a unique position in that we are a component of the theater department, which is a component of the liberal arts and sciences that Rhodes embraces.
Liberal arts are a great place because in the liberal arts you are asked to question, you are asked to examine. And in that comes over to the theater department, and students who are not necessarily majors come in with that knowledge of their own major, and it's shared.
We can do shows at the McCoy that nobody else will touch because of that academic relationship.
There's a balance, and that is it's great to have these ideas and this talent and this energy coming in. It's great to have the question. It's great to have all of that, but it can be a problem when it tilts over to where what's in the book is more important than what's in the soul. It's finding that balance.
It still offers an opportunity to see performances that are not necessarily viable in another community theater because their goals for their audience are different than what the goals for an audience and serving students can be here.
We're able to do some things that could never play in a commercial theater. I mean, we do depend on our box office, but the school will keep our lights on.
And I think with Memphis theaters sometimes they are always in a constant state of growth or trying to change. McCoy offers an opportunity to appeal not only to community but to sort of examine what's going on within the world of students, see what might be speaking to them. I guess you get that in an academic setting, but I don't know, McCoy seems to be, it has like part of the building in the community and part of the building on the campus, although the goal and the thought for the purpose of it was very much structured for the community of the college. I think it was a little bit more community theater in terms of its outreach to the artists within the community.
What else did McCoy offer? It offered a place for people to come and really stretch and also come and teach.
The relationship with community artists, it was it's very old school, very interning. It was like an internship brought to you on campus because the community people that were brought in were not only, I think, really good in their craft, but also were of a mind to be open to working with students. It was a healthy partnership. It wasn't, for the most part, divahood. Oh yes, this will be my spot. It wasn't. They were of a mindset to be an educator as well as performer.
This is a different theater because it's a teaching theater. So I think that's the thing. I don't believe that any of the other theaters had anything but best wishes for this theater. It was exciting, they had known Ray Hill and Cookie and some of the people who had done work for years, and they were really well respected in the community. So people were curious about it. They were always very careful when play finding happened. Tony, like I said, always involved some community people who knew what was happening in the other theaters. What are they talking about? Of course, it's all kind of big secret from time to time. But they were trying to work together, too, so that everybody could be successful. Memphis is really unique in that way. Living now in another city, we are so fortunate to have the number of theaters that we do, and the fact that they do each offer their own different kind of thing. And I think what this theater offered was an intellectual kind of approach to theater, where students could learn the craft, but also grow as people through this wonderful art.
The circuit was always very good about doing some cutting-edge plays, and Theater Memphis was always very good about the classics. But when you all of a sudden you've got this group, and it's small and it's intimate, and you don't have to worry about a lot of big stuff. You have this nice, small, intimate group. There was one time we had a repertory going. There were 2 shows that were mixed, student and community, and the 3rd show was predominantly community. And that was great because what happened was the students could come and they could watch these folks who really knew what they were doing in a play that was that tight. And that's what everybody wanted to do. They wanted to reach and get that strong.
Although I questioned it every once in a while about, like, why can't I have that role? Which is wonderful for and I think in college, at that particular age and stage of the game, that's really, you should have that drive and should want to have that drive. But being put into a situation in which another opportunity was there for me opened up so many doors of experience that a faculty person cannot give you, because their world is education. And you're able to be in a working relationship with somebody who's, if it's not their profession, it is their passion, and it's their second profession in life.
I remember some of the shows that I was in, some of the greatest habits that I learned were from being on stage with those community actors. I was lucky enough to be in a show with Jim Ostrander, with Ann Sharp. They were incredible, powerful people in the Memphis community that I would never have learned from you or my friends or my roommates what I learned from them, because they've been doing it for years.
Theater, like all entertainment, is about connections too, and it opened up connections. As someone who started their own theater company in another city, I was educated on how to go about doing that here because of connection to community outside the academic structure.
So you have a lot of people come in who share, who want to pass it on.
Many people know that Tennessee Williams wrote his first play while visiting his grandparents who lived on Snowden, here close to the campus, and he did some of his research by going to the Borough Library and reading Chekhov. So there's a real connection there.
The reason for the festival was to try to honor that connection.
Edwin Howard, who was a theater critic for the Old Press Scimitar for years and a really good friend of Tony's, kind of brought the idea forward that the college really should take the advantage of that opportunity. Being so close, the college having the connection to one of the America's most famous playwrights.
The Tennessee Williams Festival allowed us to work with primarily community actors. I think the first year there was a professional actor hired in to play Shannon in Night of the Iguana. And there were some students involved on stage and backstage.
When I say community now, I'm talking about people who are very strong in the field of acting, and that art. So those people were in here playing those roles. One exception was one year we were doing Seagull, and the young man who played Kostya had just graduated from the theater program.
And again, it was one of those times when the people in the community came. We had some of Memphis's finest actors working here during those shows.
Empty Chairs was a project that I got involved in. It wasn't something that we got any credit for or that we did to be graded on. I kind of heard about them talking about the rehearsals and heard about them going to performances, and I said, tell me more about that. I want to know more about that. And suddenly I was a part of it.
There were a lot of suicides taking place in the city schools, and several on this campus. And it was very disturbing. And a friend of mine, she knew someone who was working on writing about it with students' eyes, voices, and mine. And maybe we could get their script. So I asked her if she could, and she got the script. And it was hard to get the script because this was something that people are handling very, very carefully. And I didn't realize why so much at the beginning. I just knew it was something that needed to be done.
There are monologues by several characters, and the person who had committed suicide is the last person to have their monologue.
We would take it to the city schools if they wanted us, and they had to know what it was about. And we had the city school system has psychologists who are on board, and we had to go through them before we could take it to schools. And there were a lot of schools who did not want us because it was too volatile.
Even though it was a series of monologues, they were very well-drawn characters because they were drawn from people that had actually lived it. And even though it's a small portion of words, if you really become that character, then you start to feel the pain that they went through. And when you do it for a group of kids in high school, a lot of them who have these same thoughts or have experienced those who have the same thoughts, you start getting stories from other people, and they come up and they tell you. We got letters from people. Other schools would hear about it and ask us to come. It's hard to put a value on something like that because you never know what it's going to mean. The message that you give to people, what happens after that? And who have you possibly helped? And that's something you can't really think of when you're doing it, but you do. You see the faces of people in the audience, and there are some that you know are right there. It made you want to give a good performance and want to really feel the characters because you felt you were making a difference.
It really was a very moving experience.
It was really incredible in helping me understand what a few people can do in a part of a community using theater.
Soul of the People was a collaboration between the McCoy Theatre, the theater department at Rhodes, and the then Black Repertory Company here in Memphis under the leadership of Harry Bryce, who devised and directed Soul of the People. Was created from song and poetry and storytelling, and talked about the African American experience. What was interesting about the production is that we had a variety of performers involved. We had community members, members from Black Repertory Company, student performers, and one would be surprised, perhaps, not all of them were African American. There was a nice mix of races in the cast, and that was part of addressing that story, was to not be racially biased in the casting and to use the talents of the students, the talents of the community members, and the talents of the Black Repertory Company members to combine to present an original piece of work.
The idea is that it's a play that really we wanted to do, and Miss Laura and I talked several times about, can we have a swimming pool on the McCoy stage? Well, no. No. And U of M also wanted to do it, but the woman, Gloria Baxter, who is a goddess, particularly with narrative theater, was interested in the stories of metamorphoses, but not necessarily in the production with the pool. And she had a former student, Jeff Wood, who was writing the Southern metamorphoses, which was all the stories, but they were with a Southern slant. And so that's what she was going to do. So we worked out this deal where Gloria would come here and work in our black box theater and do the Southern metamorphoses, and I would go over to U of M and do the swimming pool metamorphoses. That's the best way to describe it nowadays. So, but both casts would be 50-50. Both production crews would be 50-50, divided equally. Jeff was having some difficulty with the script and getting in, at the time that we needed to do. So it was discussed and decided that that would be pulled and put on weight. We had auditions here. We had auditions at U of M. We had a cast that was equally divided. We had a crew that was equally divided. And it was loads of fun when we first started because the two schools are very different. You have one school where these guys are out here learning about the business. They're getting out there. They're auditioning. They're doing things. They know how to breathe. They know how to deal with the lines. They've got the voice and diction. And then you have over here where we are, which is we take scripts apart. Why do they do this? What is the purpose of what does this mean? What does this mean today? We're taking things apart like this. Well, we put the two casts together, and it was fun to watch how at first they were sitting separately, each watching the other. What's going to happen? And then we had one student from Rhodes who was very outgoing, who was determined that wasn't going to happen. And so she crossed over and started getting conversation and dialogue going. And so then all of a sudden everybody is coming together, and it's loads of fun. And by the end of the show, it was great because you could hear the kids from Rhodes all of a sudden becoming very aware of, I don't have the proper breath support, I don't know where my voice is, I've got to do that better. And the U of M kids were going, now what did that really mean? Why are we really doing that? What is our goal? We learned so much from them, and I think they learned from us. It was loads of fun. I loved the pool.
One thing led to another. It took several years before Eric Henniger and I were able to team teach Spanish-American drama as a course. And the way we did that was Eric would use his time in class to treat the texts as literature, at least in the beginning, and then I would try to get the students up on their feet and doing something with that language. I think one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had with Spanish language productions was the Pastorella, which Pastorella is a shepherd's play. It's a Christmas pageant kind of thing. I actually developed a course around the Pastorella, looking at it from a historical perspective as well as a performative perspective, and did 3 different productions of it, 2 connected to the class, and 1 was just basically the class coming back together again and doing it again. We took the performance to a couple of churches with Hispanic congregations in Memphis, and also did some performances at the McCoy in the hopes of inviting the Hispanic population onto the campus so that it, that there was give and take both ways. And that was really a lot of fun to work with.
The Children's Theater Festival through Voices of the South has come about over the last few years, and that's wonderful to see take place here. It's a wonderful sort of through line with Cookie's interest in children's theater as well as this company's interest, providing an opportunity for students to explore children's theater, which is a whole different realm that you just whole different performance style, whole different engagement of different faculties as a performer.
Memphis theater community used to be a very open and giving community where everybody was working together. And then, like everything, it changes and it goes through its own cycle of being separate. You're with this theater, you're with this theater, you're with this theater. And it's nice when we are all engaged in this together, and when we are all engaged in asking for something better. When you have more artists around, you have stronger art. That's just a given. You see it. When you have more artists around, you have stronger art. And then you have more people interested in the art. Now we're going into another place where it's fun bringing in different directors. It's fun bringing in folks from outside the community, not just outside the Rhodes community or the Memphis community, but outside, bringing people in from Chicago or London or, like that, because they're bringing their sensibilities, their questions to us, and we learn and grow from that as well. Challenge. It's fun.
And so I'm glad to see community people coming back to the theater and being welcomed by students and what they have to offer being recognized.
You need each other. You need each other to grow as artists. You need each other to have an impact on yourself, on the world. You know, you need each other. And I love seeing that take place.